DOJ and the FBI were trying to frame, they still thumb their noses at Judicial Watch and the Trump administration, the people at the White House. So they have to file suit, but they're winning the suits. So Tom Fitton, thanks for being with us again here on the Howie Carr Show. You've been releasing some more of the documents that you got last week, and tell us about some of the new information that you've revealed. I wanted to ask you about some, but what do you think is the most interesting stuff that you found out since we last talked to you?
Well, I think last week we talked about the fact that the FBI interview reports of Bruce Ohr were released, and they detail about his communications with the Clinton spy ring at Fusion GPS, including Bruce Ohr's wife, Nellie Ohr.
Right.
And he was transmitting information from Nellie and Fusion GPS to, obviously he's at the Justice Department, so he has it, and certainly the FBI was getting it as well. So now we're getting the documents that Nellie Ohr gave her husband in order to give to the FBI, all targeting President Trump. And included in these documents is this crazy spreadsheet. It's almost like an insane game of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, except Russia style.
Right.
So, in fact, she's trying to draw all these connections between Trump and these Russians, including she was going so far as to try to figure out the background of a guy who allegedly poured Trump a drink in Russia.
Yeah, a Russian. I'm reading now. There's on this spreadsheet. Who's who? 19 September 2016. You're right. This is like something from an insane asylum. The list of individuals allegedly. It includes a Russian involved in a gangland killing, an Uzbek mafia don, a former KGB officer suspected in the murder of Paul Tatum, a Russian who allegedly, quote, buys up banks and pumps them dry, a Russian money launderer, a Turk accused of, where did all these names and people come from? They just rounded them up from the internet, said, bad people in the old Soviet Union.
Yeah, I mean, this is just classic garbage data dumps designed to give the FBI and the Justice Department justification. Again, this is material that's being created and used by the FBI and Justice Department in December of 2017. So this is 2016. So this is after the president is elected. He's president-elect. Right. And look, if you saw this, if this material was put up on a wall,
yeah,
and you had all the strings connecting you think, my gosh, this person needs to be red flagged. You think there was psychosis behind it. But this psychosis, this anti-Trump psychosis, was the basis for spying on the president.
So the name Kathleen Kavalek, now that name came out a couple of months ago. She's a former underling of John Kerry's at Foggy Bottom, the State Department. And so February 2017, she's now I should say before the election, she talks to Christopher Steele, this British spy, and she realizes he's full of it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He says the Russians are running the operation out of the Russian consulate in Miami, which doesn't exist. There is no Russian consulate in Miami. So she apparently alerted the DOJ and the FBI to the fact that this guy didn't know what he was talking about, right?
Yeah, but it didn't stop her from continuing to push garbage to Ohr.
Right. So in February,
that were quotes.
Yeah, this is in February.
An article that advocates for the impeachment of the president.
Right.
And what does Ohr do with it? He sends it to the field office of the FBI.
Why would she send him this story about Steele's evidence indicating that Trump had committed treason when she knows it's BS? And why? And Ohr had earlier warned the FBI that Steele had no credibility, yet he's still forwarding this story from another person who knows that there's nothing to this.
Look, it makes sense if you're just trying to remove the president. And, my view is that they were vacuuming up anything that they could that had the word Trump and Russia in the same sentence or the same document, no matter who created it and for what purpose and what legitimacy and provenance. And that way they had a record full of paper to justify the illegal targeting of President Trump. Remember, they had already been targeting him based on even less during the 2016 campaign. and you kind of see the desperation in these Ohr documents, both the FBI interview reports, the documents that Fusion GPS, the Clinton firm, was sending to the FBI after he was elected, to end his presidency even before it began.
Some of the FBI documents in the past, anyway, I don't know what it is now. But now that it's all electronic, they would say this is an FBI document not to be shared with anybody else, including local law enforcement. I mean, these documents that Bruce Ohr is passing on from Nellie Ohr, they might as well have had stamped on them. These documents were bought and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee. That's because that's all this was. This was opposition research, and it wasn't even research. It was just made up garbage. And this guy, the number 4 guy in the Department of Justice, even after Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017, is just passing this stuff along to the FBI and the Justice Department, even though he knows it's nonsense.
And not only that, but you talked about it might as well have been marked, paid for by the Clinton DNC operation.
Yeah.
They stripped that part out because the 302 reports, the FBI interview reports, Ohr acknowledges, and the FBI acknowledges, they gave us the Fusion GPS material that Nellie Ohr created. Stripped from the headers, though, of the documents was the fact that it was a Fusion GPS material. So they were trying to hide that connection.
Tom, I think I know the answer to this question, but you deal with this every day. Why would the Justice Department, when you filed this lawsuit, I think it was in 2018, to get the documents and file the Freedom of Information Act request before then, why didn't they turn it over? This is Trump's Department of Justice. You would think they would want this material out to show how the President of the United States was the victim of an attempted soft coup.
Well, you would think that, but we know the Deep State Justice Department had an interest in moving that coup forward. And the president, as has been pointed out with the Mueller report, isn't allowed to be president. He's not allowed to express any interest in how the Justice Department is run because the Justice Department is a law unto itself. And as a result, they hide information from the American people and hide it in a way as to try to undermine President Trump. These are political decisions that are made to withhold these documents, and we've been yelling about it since day one. And I'm sure the president's instinct is to try to get it done, but he's yelled at repeatedly that he's not allowed to ask the Justice Department, for the time of day, let alone to move documents out more quickly.
Yeah, they say if he does it, he's obstructing justice, even though he's just trying to get to the bottom of an attempt to frame him. Now, didn't Nellie Ohr testify? Right. Didn't Nellie Ohr, the wife of Bruce, she was on the payroll, basically, it was second hand removed. She was on the payroll of the Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee. Didn't she testify to Congress that she had no role in these DOJ investigations? But these documents you have indicate she obviously did.
Oh, yes. I mean, Bruce Ohr offers her up as a source for two of his colleagues investigating something related to Russia, obviously. And when you look at the volume of documents that not only in this batch but in other materials that we've released, there's good reason I say that she may as well have had a desk at the Justice Department. She was sending material over there all the time. And remember, for a year plus, she had been working for the Clinton operation. And she knew what she was doing in terms of she didn't know, sometimes you work, you don't know who your client is.
Yeah.
But she knew it was the Clintons, and Ohr knew it was the Clintons, and Ohr told the FBI, yeah, I know she's working for the Clintons, but here's the stuff anyway.
Doesn't Bruce Ohr have to file financial disclosure forms and say if his wife is working for outside entities that might have a conflict of interest? And didn't he not report that she was working for the Democrats in the Clinton campaign?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a handle on that, whether the appropriate disclosures were made. But certainly in these documents, he made it clear to the FBI that his wife was working for them. I mean, I think Ohr's biggest problem is that he was communicating with his wife's colleague, essentially, Glenn Simpson, who was running Fusion GPS, and the spy Christopher Steele. He was conflicted out of doing any of that. Ohr should have been nowhere near this case. The idea that Ohr is acting as a vehicle for this information,
Conduit.
it'd be like, you know what? If Bill Barr was out there conducting interviews of witnesses, you'd be like, what are you doing? No, Mr. Barr, you shouldn't be using WhatsApp to communicate with witnesses. That's what Ohr was doing as a senior Justice Department official. It was irregular in ways that are just unfathomable, but explainable given the desperate efforts to take Trump out.
We're like less than 3 weeks away, I think, from Labor Day. When are we going to see charges by the John Durham grand jury, which I assume has been impaneled, and B, the Inspector General's report on the FISA court abuses? Do you have any idea?
Everything I hear is that report will be out in September. We may see a report this week on Comey's mishandling of Trump's FBI files that were referred allegedly for criminal prosecution that the Justice Department has refused to bite on. As if there are any other prosecutions, I don't know. If the past is prologue, I don't expect much.
Yeah, I know. I think we were told in the spring that the Inspector General's report would be out in June. Then we're told there's new information. They have to go back to the witnesses. It's going to be July, 4th of July. Now it's past Labor Day that we're supposed to get it out.
Everything I hear is that it will be damning. It doesn't necessarily mean prosecutions will flow from it. Look, I mean, we've proven the case, Howie. I don't know what else we need to do. I'm sure there's other material out there showing this, showing the complex coup cabal that it was operating with the State Department, FBI, and DOJ in league with Fusion GPS, the Clinton DNC operation to target Trump. It's all there. So the IG reports will be confirming the FISA-gate lies based on what we have here and other details, I'm sure. But the broad outlines Judicial Watch has developed through our own independent investigations.
Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Where can people go if they want to learn more about Judicial Watch?
We're all over the internet on judicialwatch.org, on Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else.
You're doing a great job, as I always tell you, Tom, but I mean it. So thanks for being with us again. Keep up the good work.
You're welcome.
I'm Howie Carr.